Hi everyone. It's indeed a great pleasure to introduce our guest today. But before that, I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Naveen Srivastava. I'm heading the OBHR area here, and I'm a professor of law in HR, dealing with a lot of intricacies of HR here. And it's a moment of great pleasure to have Mr. Anil Sinha with us. Let me just introduce you with his illustrious background. He has started his career from SAIL, and then he has gone working with Tata Timken, which is a joint venture with Timken, which is a global organization, and all these places he have been heading the HR, global HR of these organizations. Post that, he has joined organizations like Goldman Sachs and the companies related to it. He has been instrumental in the fields of HR. He has contributed significantly in the areas of IR, employee relations, that's the term that we have been using here. He has done a magnanimous work in the areas of HR in the organization like Aditya Birla Group, where in Hindalco, in Renukut, he has transformed the complete IR processes there, and he has also worked in different countries like China and South Africa, Philippines, etc. More than 34 countries he has traveled during his stint in HR and business development verticals. So welcome you, sir, to Birla Institute, for your valuable advice and guidance to us.
Thank you very much. Hello everybody. It is a great pleasure to be here in this institute, because one of the things I have always believed in, that lifelong one has to remain a student, continuously learning. So when I am here, it gives me that sort of satisfaction that I am in a learning environment with learned professors like you and other people here. So it's as much for me to learn from you all as whatever experience I can share with you all.
Sir, with due humility, I take this word of humbleness from yourself as a blessing for our institution, and our students are really going to be delighted to have you here and to listen to your valuable insights. So before we start, I would just like to go through, while I was reading your profile, so I just saw that you have a very rich, illustrious career in the industry, where you have worked in national and multinational organizations. So what, according to you, is so special about HR in the present time?
I think it has undergone a complete transformation. Means when I started my career, and like me, a lot of us, about 4 decades back, and till a very significant period of time, HR was always sort of more of a support function, more as a service function, and it was always treated that it is on periphery. The transformation which has happened over the last few years is that now it is at the very center. It's more of a strategic function rather than a support function. And if you have heard the interviews of CEOs and various business leaders, majority amount of time today, most of them are spending on organizational issues and people related issues. So that's a huge change which has happened. But you know, like every change, it brings a different sort of demand also. Like for example, one needs to know about the business, know about the operations of whichever organization or company one is working for in far more greater depth and detail than what was required earlier. Because if one does not do that, you can't serve the HR role which has evolved now, because it's more a business role rather than just a support role. Likewise, you see, another thing which has happened is as a support function, you are not as sort of customer oriented as, say, for a function like sales and or a functions like supply chain, and where really you used to say earlier also customer is the king. But now for this function also, for HR function also, all stakeholders, whether they are your employees, whether it's a union leader, whether it's a bureaucrat with whom you need to handle, whether it is your peers across different, all are your customers. And to clarify, if they are not external, they are your internal customers. So that orientation also, so these are couple of changes which definitely need to come into the I would say the DNA of whoever comes into HR or whoever has been in HR.
Very nice. Thank you, sir, for that. Sir, very nicely said. You talked about labor management, you talked about industrial relations, you talked about the new transformation of organization in the form of people connecting with the business development profile also. So let me just take up that particular term, which is now being termed as employee relations,
Yes.
erstwhile industrial relations, which we have been talking about. Now, the term industrial relations and its dynamics over the years have changed.
Yes.
So what, according to you, will be the future of industrial relation
Yes.
in the present context of a lot of companies like ITES companies which are coming up, services sector is also evolving. What, according to you, is going to be the IR of future?
Again, in this sphere also, the things have changed quite a lot from sort of you and me, us and they. Now it's more sort of we together.
We together.
So I think that is an important change, and that's why you would see that over the years, the trade unions have also transformed. The trade unions have also started believing in the fact that if there is the company, if the company does well, then we are there. So, like for example, I can tell you that let me say when I was in SAIL, there was always a one-sided charter of demands. One-sided that it used to start with 40 demands from the unions, would gradually be brought down, and then 10, 12, but all what was to be given, the demand was always from the union to the management. Now, one of the changes which a lot of HR leaders experimented with, and at certain point, at certain stage of my growth also, I also tried it out, that there has to be a charter of demand from the management also, that if so much has to be given, from where it will come. Means if the size of the pie doesn't enlarge, then no one gets that share. So that has led to a lot of I would say productivity based agreements. Even I remember in Hindalco, in one of the units, we had the union agreed with us that whatever is the cost of the settlement, that would come from the settlement itself.
Okay. Very nice.
Supposing if cost of settlement was 1 crore rupees, then in the settlement itself there would be provisions which would lead to generation of that 1 crore of rupees.
Okay, interesting.
Okay,
Interesting.
and that could come by rationalization of position, that could come by improvement. So I think this is a huge transformation change which is happening, and so far especially in the IT and IT enabled services sector, there the approach has to be completely different.
Wow.
Because there you won't have a union, and the difference between industrial relations and employee relations is that when you talk of employee relations, the focus shifts to the individual unit, the individual person. So when we talked about IT and IT enabled services, or to certain extent in services sector also, the employee relations would mean this relationship with individual employees, how you take care of their expectations, how you help them improve their productivity. So that would be a major that would be a major difference between an employee relations in an organization where you still need to deal with unions. And in large organizations, I think sometimes it's an advantage also to have a representative body to talk to. So I think that's, but there are certain things, whether it is industrial relations or employee relations, there are certain things which will remain sacrosanct. What will remain sacrosanct is, first of all, employee relations will not get managed automatically. You will need to devote time to that. And
absolutely.
you will need to devote time to that. I can share an example with you that in terms of union and the largest number of workforce, I have handled about 13,000. That was in my stint as HR head of Hindalco plant at Renukoot. And one of the things which we used to practice, I used to practice, is that half an hour, come what may, I would spend with the leader, and I would spend with people, critical people, people who are critical to managing overall employee relations and all. And my managers, my bosses knew that that is a time exclusively meant for them, and no one would disturb me at that time.
Very,
Means
very
I,
nice.
so I think that was the thing. So this, what this did, it led to a creation of a, I would say, trust. Trust started building, and as a result of trust, lot of times things which could seem very, very difficult got handled very. Means I still remember that in 2004 the wage settlement was to take place, and at that time, means we had a mandate, and the union had its demand, and then the discussions were going on for few months. But I would tell you that the person who was the leader, with whom I had built a strong relationship and credibility, and he was the key person. Means if he okays it, then it gets through all over in all the 3-4 units of Hindalco which were there in that area. And so I had prepared a draft, and I was, first of all, and that is another thing which I would also like to emphasize upon, that honesty is very important.
Honesty is very important.
Honesty is very important, because that helps in building long-term things, and should not have focus on the short. So I presented that draft to him, and that gentleman, at that time he was in his mid-70s and all, he asked me, where do I need to sign? And he is representing 13,000-14,000 workmen.
Wow.
And he is asking me that where do I need to sign? So
That's a faith.
Yes,
you have
that's the.
developed.
So he only asked me that, is this the best what the company can do for us?
Wow.
I said, yes, this is the best. And he said, where do I need to sign? I said, no, you shouldn't be in a hurry to sign. You take this, you go through this. If there is anything you need to discuss, you need to talk further on that, I'm open to that. And in fact, I had to persuade him to go and talk to his people and all those things, because I did not want it to be a two-man show driving the entire thing.
Wow.
So I think that's what trust does. Trust and honesty and transparency and spending time. These things will remain sacrosanct. The only difference being that earlier, as in the example I said, we could manage this with a people or a few people. Now you can't manage that with a people or few people, especially in the new stream of industries. And also we hear a lot of times now that union has signed the agreement, and when they took it for voting to the general this thing, that is getting rejected.
Oh.
Employees are not accepting that. So I think the major shift is that you have to take care of the individual sentiments, individual
So you
this thing.
second, the confidence building
Yes.
measure is a very important tool for a
Absolutely.
leader
Absolutely.
to drive any negotiation.
Yes.
Very nicely said, sir.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes, yes.
Very nicely said.
Yes.
Now, interestingly, from that term which you said that the confidence building is really going to help to strike a deal in any negotiation. And then you also talked about the honesty as a culture, right? By the next thing which as a curious mind I can read, and I'm really inquisitive about knowing this thing, is that how does art, culture and the sentiment that prevails in an organization really matters, and who drives that? Does the system drives that or the leader drives it? So
Okay. From your question, there are a lot of subjects, and every thing you mentioned influences how the organization runs. But let me focus a bit upon the culture.
okay.
I think organization culture is something which develops over a period of time. So at least in the beginning, or even when it is evolving, it's the role of leader is very, very important.
Well said.
Once
Well
it
said.
comes into the auto mode, then it has to be maintained. So I have been in organizations where we have had like for example, I can tell you in Tata Timken, we had an expat managing director who was there, and there was a lot of learning experience from him. He was a Britisher. He wouldn't understand Hindi. He was not understanding the local culture and all those things. So there would be times when we were in the meetings and things would keep coming backward and forward. He means people are not able to appreciate his viewpoint because of sort of difference in the way of thinking, difference in, if you call it in a way linked to culture also and all those things. I would see that he very patiently would listen, he would observe and all those things. So I would once I asked him that, why don't you sort of conclude the subject when you are saying, or allow me to conclude the subject? He would say that, it's me who has to adapt to their culture. It's me who has to adapt to this organization. Because I have come from a different culture. Here are 500-600 people working for my company. They belong to, so I need to adjust rather than they accommodating me,
True.
And then by the time he had left, I can only tell you that he was as Indian as any one of us. He is retired now. He is settled in London, but today in Mysore he runs his own NGO. He is so much rooted to India now that he is running it. So I think the role of leader is very, very important in culture building. And as you said in my intro, when you were talking about me, that I started with a public sector, then I moved to a joint venture and really an American multinational, and then to a leading Indian multinational, Aditya Birla Group, and then from there to a private equity firm, Goldman Sachs company, and then back to now in the BK Birla Group. And in these roles across, I have had the good luck, fortune of working in some other countries also. But as one jacket does not fit all, so one of the first things, especially at the leadership level or at any level, one needs to do is that to understand the culture of the organization before trying to sort of wholesale change it, or before trying to, and sort of appreciate the fact why it has been there, and it's always an empathy. Once you start understanding that, the other side would also understand upon the, when I moved from India to China, so today I have as many friends in China as I have in other countries where English is spoken very well and understood very well. There was a language gap, there was something like, but the very fact that I could utter a few words in Chinese, ni hao, or shui, or something like that, so that itself generated so much of appreciation and all those things. So one has to really make effort to get into the culture of the people and all those things. So I think and you call it short term or you call it long term, for what one needs to build in any organization, and especially a business organization, a sort of what we call a productive work culture. And this productive work culture would come if various aspects of other aspects of culture, the softer aspects of culture, that empathy, that understanding, respect for each other's tradition and all those things, if that is there, then I think it provides a very good foundation for the organization.
Fair enough. Fair enough, right. So I have now two things that is really flashing my mind, and that's what I would really like to place, to have your further enlightenment on those terms. See, recently we have seen that there's a women reservation bill which is coming up, and that's going to fix up the number of women which are going to work in the form of an employee as a key member of a workforce. Now, having said that, how do you see that females are interested in joining the workforce, and especially when we talk about in a broader perspective of IR, industrial relations, and seeing women in that particular cadre of employment?
Oh, I think women with the qualities and the character they possess, they are sort of, first of all, they are very well suited for HR function in general.
In general, very nice.
And if we talk about ER, means again I will be able to recall very early days in my career when it would have been very, very difficult to imagine a female being head of industrial relations.
Right.
So that was my first stint in the 80s in Rourkela steel plant, where we had a lady, Miss Patnaik, Miss Nirupma Patnaik, if I recall her name correctly. And my God, she was heading the HR there. She was handling the HR of the ER of the project function and all those things. And really means she was so strong, and she was so successful in this role. And in fact, those days it was said that you need to be strong, you need to be sort of have some sort of, if I may call within inverted quotes, muscle to be successful in industrial relations and all those things. But outside they used to say that in personnel department of Rourkela steel plant there is only one male, and that male, they used to say, because of the strong this thing of Ms. Patnaik. But I think, as I said, now the role has evolved, and now it's a question of dealing with individual issues and individual issues and individual people. So in the context of modern day ER, I think And I have seen also that female professionals coming into this profession are more likely to succeed because of the inherent qualities, inherent this thing which they possess. Okay, so some time back I had recruited a batch of around 8-9 people, 10 people from XISS Ranchi for our Hindalco plants in that region and all those things. And if I recall correctly, most of them were female, and quite a few of them when they came to the organization, they said that we want our first stint in a tough area. We want a tough area. We want to go to plant, not be in office. We want to handle people
See
related.
the real HR.
That will see the real HR and IR and all those things. So I think reservation bill or no reservation bill, female professionals in HR have been successful, fairly successful in this function, and they will continue to be in demand and continue to be successful as we evolve the employee relations over the next few years, especially in sectors like IT, ITES, service industry, besides the manufacturing industry.
Thank you so much, sir. Connected to that, another interesting question that comes to my mind is on how this AI and machine learning, ML, or do we talk about automation or robotics is coming up. And this is really going to change the complete human involvement in the workplace, or let's say the HR dynamics.
Yes.
Right? So do you see that it is really going to create jobs or is going to take jobs? Because that's the discussion which is going on right now, and people are really eager to know what the senior level HR professionals are foreseeing how the future is going to come out. Right? So over to you, sir.
I'll about what impact this entire thing will have on the job scenario and all those things. I like to just give you an example from the past about this. You know, when this computerization was happening, and when this sort of mechanization and process automation was happening, and buzzword was computer, then it came to laptop, then it has come to this cell phones, and everything happened. So the advent of technology, has it led to decrease of job? Not at all. In fact, the jobs, the HR jobs in different organizations has multiplied significantly.
Wow, sir.
And not only this, in every field, the employment potential, it's a different type of capability you will need to have to be successful in that. But the thing is that, in my opinion, AI or machine learning or data science, this would not have any adverse impact on jobs. It is a debate which is happening at this point in time, but I have the belief, I have the confidence that in the long run, this new vistas, new areas, new this thing. Imagine the amount of training which is required to be imparted to people in adapting themselves, in learning these things required to get onto on platforms created by AI or machine learning and data science. And this is just an example. There would be many more areas like these where opportunities would get generated. The other thing also is that why employment would not come down is because today means in Calcutta, where I am currently, there is an organization which comprises of hardly 20-25 people. They have plans to grow and plans to multiply and all the, but at this stage itself they want a CHRO for the company.
Yeah.
I asked them that why do you need a CHRO? And the managing director, who is a young person and all that, he says, no, I need it for my future. So any things like this which are, and he was talking about, there is no HR in his organization, there is no HR manager, but he wants to quickly transition into HR processes driven by all these things. So that is an important aspect. And the question, the impact which AI and machine learning would have would be tremendous, and HR professionals or people coming into HR would need to be well equipped to handle the challenges coming out of that, you know. One change which this would bring about, that it would reduce the subjectivity. Even in spite of our best efforts, if you talk about performance management, then even in the best of this thing, there is an element of subjectivity, good, and in some large amount of subjectivity.
Right.
You talk about recruitment in talent acquisition and all those things. At certain stage, this subjectivity, these tools, what they are going to do, what these platforms, what they are going to do is that they will sort of enable more objective decision making, decisions based on facts, decisions based on logic and all that. I was just going through that in one of the articles based on what has been already tried out in some organizations. Means AI and ML tools are supporting and helping a lot in the learning and development and skill identification. No?
Very right.
Because of some of the processes, it's much more individual based rather than a group based and all those things. And like today when we are identifying the training needs, it's based on the feedback of his manager, his feedback and all those things. But these tools, it is a lot, the output which they generate is a lot after analysis of how the person has done, in terms of where are what are the areas he could get into, and based on that the training needs or skill development, a lot of objectivity in that.
Very nice.
This was one example. There are a lot of other areas also where in fact in all areas this will certainly change things, and we in HR have to be prepared to live up to the challenges which comes out of that. Having said that, I would we should also not forget the cons side of it.
Okay.
We have tools, we have platforms which are machine enabled, which are or AI or whatever you call. But in the process, we don't need to become machines. We still need to retain our human aspects. Means there are a term which I use and I hear from a lot of people, that the touch and feel HR.
Wow.
We should not forget that
the human
element that always has to remain, and if that is something which will be, and that
well said, sir.
That combined with the modern tools, techniques, technology and all those things would be a great movement forward.
So algorithm cannot change the human interface.
Yes.
And that has its own merit. Very well said, sir. Now the next thing that comes to my mind, or our viewers are interested in knowing, is that how is the future of communication, right? We are talking about a lot in sense of how the robots are going to work, how the bots are going to make and replace the jobs, but how are those effective communication will further change the whole HR and IR in the times to come? So what are your?
I think, see, one of the first things which you expect when a person comes to HR, or when you select a person to HR, or for that matter all roles, but so communication has been right from the very beginning a very, very important core strength pillar which the person must have it. And different types of this, it's means one-on-one communication, or you have to be good on a sort of larger group communication, the town halls and all those things. One needs also to be good at a difficult conversation. When we are talking about performance management and all those things, not everything has to be goody-goody at that time. If there is a difficult issue to be discussed, and also so these are different type of communication skills which all managers, and especially the HR managers or HR professionals, need to possess. Now, but again, I think it's again changed a lot over the years, and now as we go forward, besides these things which I mentioned, that IT enabled communication, or chat GPT, like for example, with the help of chat GPT, you don't need to respond manually to each and every query or each and every question and all those things.
Right, sir. Right.
That gets responded automatically from the database and from all those things which is there. So, and you know what this does? If you get away from day-to-day operational issues, and there is any platform or any agency which can handle it as well as you were doing, then what it does, it suddenly frees up a lot of your time, the HR manager's time, to focus on more strategic aspects, more on developmental aspects, and sort of longer term issues, rather than handling grievances, attending day-to-day queries and all those things. So as I said, communication will become
very important.
more sort of technology driven, technology oriented also. So, but at the same time, I still believe that you need to be good at the traditional communication modes also. I think some of the things which I mentioned.
One interesting feature I would just like to bring into our conversation in connection to communication is, so nowadays there are a lot of emojis, right? Emojis reflecting our emotions. Now that has come up in a formal conversation also.
Yes.
Suppose if I give a thumbs up. Suppose if I'm happy with your decision, I give a smiley. And then there are different forms of emotions and moods which are coming up. And that really shortens our time for giving a formal communication. Is it right, or rather is it doable, or is it acceptable in the formal?
As far as I am concerned, this thing is that it loses its value if you start doing it on a routine matter to everything.
Okay.
Once you,
so with a word of caution, people should
I
take
think
that.
if once in a while or something like that, you raise the thumbs up, or you do like this, that still will have value. But if on everything
You do it.
and there is nothing like this pat on the back.
Oh, absolutely.
This
Absolutely.
pat on the back is something
That's the
which
touch
yes,
and feel.
that is something which is
Very nice.
which has got no substitute. Means someone has done well, and in front of his team, you tell that this gentleman has done so and so and all those things because of this, and he is very good and all that, and you tell him the impact which it will have on that individual the impact which it will create on the rest of the team.
Right.
1,000 thumbs up or emojis would not be able to do that.
Well,
So you have to do it sparingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you do
वो
it.
हिंदी में बड़ा अच्छा कहते हैं सर, ये स्पर्श प्रधान समाज है। अगर स्पर्श मानवता में नहीं रहा तो फिर मानवता
बिल्कुल,
कहाँ रही?
बिल्कुल।
बहुत अच्छी चीज
So I
है सर।
think
थैंक यू
this
सो
is-
मच
हाँ।
फॉर दिस लास्ट क्वेश्चन ऑफ द डे, दो आई डोंट वांट टू
Yeah.
break this conversation, it's really going on fair enough. And the last is with respect to our major audience and the learners that we have, the MBAs, the management graduates that we
Yes,
have. What is your benevolent advice for them as to what they should take into account while they are designing and foreseeing a career in HR and IR? So your word of wisdom, sir.
Number one is that it applies to every field and it applies to HR also, is that the person, the student or whoever comes here has to be solid in his core domain.
Very nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is one. That is the first and foremost thing which a person, and I think with the teachers and professors like you, the students here have an opportunity to do that very well. Means an environment and campus like this, and see the rich library and everything. There is a tremendous scope to this. My first this thing is that whatever you do, wherever you are, you should be, if today anyone is in a position of responsibility, he should know all the the details of finer details and everything, and in-depth knowledge of what is required. So that is first thing. The second thing is, which I would say, is that staying power. And I like to elaborate what I meant by staying
Interesting.
power. Like I have worked in organizations where people join it and retire from the same company after 30-40 years of service, and especially in the place where I am working right now, or in organizations like Tata and Birla Group, people devote their life to their company or not. Now this has changed dramatically. This has changed dramatically because today if you give your CV, and a lot of people will say, oh my God, you have worked only in one organization, you have worked only in two organizations and all this. So
many students of mine are coming.
But you know, the reverse of also that also is not very well taken. If someone has been changing every 2-3, so by staying power, what I mean is that whatever knowledge one acquires here, the experience of that, for really trying it out, one needs to spend time in at least 1 or 2 organizations. I am not saying a lifetime thing, but at least something like 5 years, 7 years, something like that. A person should
learning, right?
So that he experiences that and gets the depth of what he has learnt in that organization.
True.
So that is the second thing. And the third thing is that we were lucky. We were lucky in the sense that when I joined, I had a 1-year training period, and then this thing, and also there was a lot of time for the given before you actually start delivering. But today, right from day one, when you join any organization, expectation is that you will start delivering immediately. So that result focus, that and I would say means I'll give you an example that when I joined Timken, so at that time the managing director was a American expat, and he had given me some task, and I could not do that. So in those days, what was happening, and especially in lot of public sector or traditional Indian organizations, means achieving a result and not achieving a result, but if you had a proper justification of that, so that was equal. Either you achieve result, or if you have not done that, then you are able to justify why you have not done that. So I came from that background. So I told Mr. Mayor, who was the MD, I said, I explained to him. So he said, oh, so you have failed. So it hurt the ears. He's saying I have failed. Is this failing? So once again I tried. No, it's okay. You have failed, but have you learned from it? So that was a learning from me also, that when you work in a extremely professional setup, I think process is important. You have to be ethical, but a result is equally important. You may have done the right process, you may have followed, but if you have not been able to achieve what it was intended to, so I think the speed of delivery or the time gap between joining an organization and delivering also is going to be. And the other thing also is that one should always be prepared to experiment with oneself also. Means
so experimenting
with career also. Means I tell you something is that again in one of the companies where I was working, the head of purchase resigned, and I went to the managing director asking for that we need to recruit and all those things. So the MD also was a bit daring. So he asked me, what about you taking over the purchasing function? I said, I have never handled this, and my wife does not trust me with purchase of vegetables from the vegetable market. And you want to entrust me with responsibility of 400 crores purchase of... He said, no, I am willing to take the risk. Are you? So I said, okay, as long as this does not become the reason for my being thrown out of the company if I fail, it's fine. So we said that, okay, we'll do this experiment. So we did this, we'll try it out for 6 months. But it went on for 7 years. The next head of purchase was recruited after I left. So I think you should always be willing to sort of venture out into other fields, and ultimately it was I wouldn't say first of all, the other thing also I learned early in my career, that opportunity does not come in like this opportunity which I mentioned to you. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it would, for example, when at the fag end of my stay in Aditya Birla Group, when I was given this difficult job of heading the oleochemical business of the group in Southeast Asia, based out of Manila, Philippines. So that time also it was a risk, it was a big risk, it was a completely different type of thing in a different country and all those things. But I think accepting these challenges has a reward in itself, that you moved out of your comfort zone, So I think the other thing which young professionals need to watch out is that if ever you get opportunities like this, don't sort of reject it, or don't show less enthusiasm toward it, that it is risky, you might fail. So I think there are a lot of things, but these are some of the key things, and being a constant learner, I think that's one thing. Whenever you go to campus to select people, one of the things which always is looked at, that ability of the person, how has he been on the learning aspect of it.
True. So learnability is very important.
Learnability is very, very important. So I think these are some of the few things on which I think our young friends could concentrate upon and try to develop these.
I think, sir, it's my heart is not saying to close this thing, right? But then, with the time and the judicious moment that we've spent with you,
Yes.
and that is coming from my core. I'm going to say you pranam and very
No, 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 I
thankful
think
for
this
you
is
for
not
having your
required. No, no, no.
valuable insight on the different
No, no, no.
perspective of HR and the learnings that you have given to our students about knowing the core of the subject, stability of tenure, stay in an organization, living with a commitment in life, then also ready to take challenges, also having and building capability of holding learnability in yourself, and having an humble and so core self which is going to be good for any organization. I think these are key takeaways from your deliberations, sir. We really thank you for having spared some time for us and giving your benevolent advice and guidance for our students. We'd like to have these kind of sessions in future also on
Sure,
different
sure.
other topics also. Thank you so much, sir.
No,
for
no,
joining.
I would like to thank you, and I think in a short span of about the time which we discussed,
Yeah, 35
I think it was a very sort of fruitful for me also, from the point of view that after this conversation I could also think that okay, how if I had to do this again, how I could do this better.
Okay, how I
So
could
the-
relive the life
relive the
again.
life.
That's something
So-
which a senior
yes.
person like
Yes, sir.
Mr. Anil Sinha ji is saying right now, and we need to be very careful about this thing, right?
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much,
Thank
sir.
you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much for joining.
Thanks a lot.